Welcome to Nasdaq TradeTalks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for this segment, we have Dr. Gavin Towler, Chief Sustainability Officer of Honeywell, to discuss the fourth quarter Environmental Sustainability Index report and if the COP28 agreement will also be a catalyst for more urgent sustainability actions. Dr. Towler, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Hi, Jill. Great to join you.
You got it. And climate change is on the top of everyone's mind as COP28 drew to a close last week with a global agreement to phase down fossil fuels. Just prior to COP28, Honeywell released its latest findings from the Environmental Sustainability Index, which for the first time measured respondents' reactions to recent climate events that occurred this year, such as flooding, rising ocean temperatures, and wildfires. What are respondents saying and doing?
Yeah, actually, it's interesting. The ESI survey was pretty much backed up what we found at the COP as well, which is that people now really believe that we're seeing the effects of climate change, right? The impacts of the weather events we had this summer. I know we're in an El Nino year, but we're actually starting to feel what 1.5 degrees of warming looks like. And that's driving a greater sense of urgency. And what we saw in the ESI survey is that people not only recognize this, but the majority of companies are actually stepping up what they're doing and attempting to accelerate the things they're doing around the energy transition and mitigating the impact of global warming. So I think there's generally a building momentum that companies need to be part of the solution. And that was reflected at the COP as well. There was a big focus in the COP was this year was about being more inclusive and not just having governments and NGOs be there, but also have companies come and talk about how they can be part of solving global warming.
Do you think the COP28 agreement will also be a catalyst for more urgent sustainability actions?
I think it will in several ways. First of all, it's going to unlock some new investment, which is a good thing, particularly for developing countries. But also some of the things that were agreed, for example, the pledge to address methane and also the tripling of renewable fuels. Both of these are key things. And obviously, we need to transition to net zero electricity as fast as we can. But methane is a very potent greenhouse gas. And the decision that was made that we would actually go after the methane emissions, particularly from the oil and gas sector, that's going to be very important.
What can organizations do right now to make an impact on climate change?
I think the key thing for all companies is to recognize the fact that climate investments need to be made and to start earmarking some part of their own capital plans to specifically go after things that will bring down their carbon footprint, things that will reduce their Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions. And I think that's starting to happen. We see that in the survey that people are saying they're going to increase the investment amounts. But this is a challenge for the management of every company, but also for boards, for investors to keep the pressure on companies, because the companies that move on this are making themselves more sustainable, literally. The companies that don't are the ones who are going to find it becomes more difficult later and more expensive. So really getting some movement going around addressing the things that have good paybacks. What we like to call, Honeywell likes to call this the ready now technologies, right? These are things where you don't need to wait for people to make a research breakthrough. The technology exists. You just need to make a decision to go ahead and actually deploy it.
What is Honeywell doing?
For ourselves, we've already made a big reduction in our own carbon footprint. In fact, actually 90% since 2004. We're about to announce the progress on our 10-10-10 goals, which were goals that we set ourselves to achieve by 2024. So we've actually made big reductions in our own carbon footprint. But when you look at Honeywell's carbon footprint, it's 2 million tons. When you look at the impact we have on our customers, it's almost 100 times that at the moment. And so most of our impact is actually through the technologies that we offer to our customers and how we help them accelerate their path to net zero.
Do you think that all of this will be enough to meet the Paris Agreement goals?
That's a really good question. I mean, the Paris Agreement actually has two goals, right? There's the 2°C goal, which is the actual goal of the agreement. And then there's the stretch target of 1.5. There was a lot of discussion at the COP about, can we keep 1.5 alive? So do we still have viable paths to 1.5? We actually do, at the moment, still have a path to getting to 1.5 degrees of warming. But we're probably going to experience what 1.5 degrees of warming is like this year and next year. These are going to be 2 warm years. And the time is really running out for taking drastic action. And that really means massively increasing the amount of investment in renewable fuels and in the energy transition if we're going to keep to the goal of 1.5 degrees. We'll probably have about another couple of years to really pick up the pace on the investment, and then 1.5 won't be attainable, at least without doing something like removal of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So yeah, I'm still optimistic at the moment, but we do really need to pick up the pace in terms of the energy transition.
All right, Dr. Fowler, we appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Thank you, Jill.